We are here today at the Warner Brothers studio lot for Dolph Lundgren QA.
He's from my country, I'm Swedish.
I grew up on his movies like Rocky IV, Universal Soldiers, Expendables.
He was the OG Punisher.
Actually, Q&A is one of my favorite aspects of this academy.
It gives us an environment where we can learn.
And I really look forward to hear what he has to say.
Hi everybody, how are you? I can't thank you guys enough for coming to see Dolph and see the film. What'd you guys think of the film? Yeah. I'm curious. How many was this the first time you've seen it?
Nope.
But quite a few of you. So for the ones that had never seen it before, do you still have that feel-good feeling? Yes, good, all right. Well, without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, the lovely and talented Mr. Dolph Lundgren.
Have a seat.
Hi, guys. Okay.
So a very excited audience here.
Thanks.
Yes. Get yourself comfortable, settle in.
Sorry about Apollo. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't write the script.
All right, so Dolph, I've just got a couple of questions for you, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and I'm going to open it up to the students because you're here for them.
Sure.
Being an actor, you started about 1,000,000 miles away from any person that's ever started as an actor. Tell us about what you first did and what your first initial goal was when you were young.
Well, I studied chemical engineering in school. I did high school. My dad was an engineer, and my older brother was an engineer. I came to America on various scholarships to study engineering and chemistry, and I ended up getting a Fulbright scholarship to MIT, which is a great school in Boston. I was fighting. I was a karate fighter as well, an amateur fighter. So that was my goal, to come here, graduate from MIT, get a business degree, and be the president of Exxon, and something like that. But things didn't really turn out that way.
They very rarely do.
Yeah.
So you hopped on a plane, came out here to America, and landed in Seattle, correct?
First time Seattle, and
Yeah.
I studied chemistry for a year on a scholarship. Then I went back to Sweden, studied there for a couple of years, did my military service, went to Australia on another scholarship. In Australia, I met this girl, this singer, Grace Jones, who was like a big deal in those days. We kind of fell in love, and I came over to hang with her in New York, ran into a few characters like Andy Warhol and Michael Jackson, a few guys like that. And back in the 80s.
Studio 54
Studio
days,
54,
right.
the back room studio, I've been there. Yep, interesting for a young Swedish kid. And somewhere along the way, I decided to study, to start doing modeling, to get a green card, to get a visa. And then somebody said, "Hey, man, you can be in action, you can do movies, you can fight, you're a big guy." So I started studying acting. And when I did my first scene, I realized, wow, this is really cool. I like this. There's something here that I haven't done before. Because I'd been intellectual and I'd been physical, but I'd never really been emotional. And I had a lot of problems in my childhood with my dad and a few other things that I never really worked out. And this acting coach I had, he was very smart. He saw, but there was something in there. I wanted to express himself. I mean, I'd been a painter a little bit as a kid. I'd done music. But he kind of told me, like, hey, I think you're a frustrated artist. Maybe you should think about becoming an actor. And I took him up on that, and within about 6 months, or about 9 months, I was up for a bunch of different movies. And some of them were kind of dramatic roles, or small roles, but more dramatic. And then there was, this boxing movie that I went up for. I didn't know what it was. I just stood in line with 100 other guys. And I came up to a woman who sat there at the table, and she says, "Okay, next, how tall are you?" And I said, 6'4". Too tall. Next. And I was like, wait a second. And I saw the poster, Rocky IV. And I thought, oh, okay. I got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And I took some pictures in boxing gear with wrapped hands and everything, and showing off my chest, and all that. And sent them to somebody who my acting coach told me, he said he knew somebody who, actually the guy who played Paulie, what was his name, the actor?
Burt Young?
Burt Young. Burt Young, he knew somebody who knew Burt Young, and Burt Young was going to give the pictures to Sly. Well, nothing happened. 6 months later, I gave up on the whole thing, and I was in Europe, you know, back in Europe, and Grace was working on a Bond movie, actually, and I was hanging out with her, with Christopher Walken. He was the bad guy, and she was the bad girl. So I was a bit jealous because they had like a love scene or something. Anyway, but he was a really cool guy, very great actor, and I watched him work also very close. You know, I was watching him because I'd studied acting then, and you know, I was interested in how he worked. And anyway, so I got a call from somebody, out of breath, some PA, you know, like, "Are you so and so?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm him," you know. And he was, "Thank God I found you. I've been looking for you for months, you know. We couldn't find you because we had this picture." And it turned out that finally Stallone got the photos. And then they flew me out here to California from New York. I lived in New York. And I, you know, hopped in a cab here in LAX, must have been 1984. And I remember driving to Paramount because that's where Stallone had his offices. And I still remember driving up towards the studio, and there was the Hollywood sign behind it, you know, and there's Paramount Pictures. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And I came in there and met Sly Stallone. He had long hair, very tanned, because he was doing one of the Rambo pictures. And it was a little shorter than I thought, you know. I was like, okay. But, you know, he was really nice to me, and he got in his office there. This is before computers, you know, and he had all these binders, like everywhere, like black binders. I got 5,000 guys up for this role, you know. So it's like, yeah, you got to put on some weight. And anyway, we took some pictures, and you know, I had to audition for it. And 6 months later, you know, I had the part. Anyway, that was a long speech I gave you guys, but there you go. There's the story.
Good enough. And
thanks.
And what's even more interesting about your career as well, you worked on the film.
Yeah.
You spent 6 months training every day and boxing and working out.
Yeah.
That was a tough thing to have to deal with, especially prior to working on this process, just the physical shape that you had to get yourself into.
Yeah, I was in great shape because I was European karate champion, a heavyweight champion actually. So I was a pretty good fighter, but I was quite thin here and like big legs, you know, from all those kicks. And then I had to get in shape for the screen test, which happened at the end of, I think it was 1984. They flew me to LA here. Again, some guy in a pickup truck threw my suitcase in the back there, picked me up, and I had to audition. You know, I was going to deliver a monologue that I had practiced in New York with my coach there. And do
you remember what the monologue was?
It was, yeah, they used it in one of the trailers. It started, "My name is Drago. I'm a fighter from the Soviet Union. I fight old champion." It started like that. He died or something like that. So then I came there. I stayed at the hotel, you know, and I was on a diet because I'd been training for 5 months on my own to get ripped. I was on a serious diet, so I didn't really want to have any breakfast, but I was going to have like maybe, you know, like a blueberry or something like. So I went down there and I had something to eat, and as I walked in the elevator to go back up, the doors open and there's this 6'5" blonde guy looking at me. Excuse me, some big Russian guy, right? I was like, okay. Then I ran into another big blonde guy. It's like, oh shit, okay. Because I realized it wasn't just me. There was 3 of us. And then I did the screen test, and I came to the studio. I was at MGM in this sound stage, empty sound stage, just dolly track like this, a mark here. And we got changed into trunks, boxing trunks, you know, bare-chested. And there was a camera, and there was about 50 people behind the camera. Sly, his bodyguards, guys in suits, people and other people, you know, a bunch of onlookers, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, oh shit, here we go. This is serious now. So I was last, and the other 2 guys, they kind of did a Russian Mr. T. I'm gonna kill you, you know. And I decided to play him very cool, like it was all internal, you know, no movements. And I'd seen the Russian cadets, Soviet cadets, they always kept their chin up like this. I had this kind of attitude, the soldiers. So I picked up a few mannerisms. So I did my screen test and went back to New York, and then the next day I got a phone call, "Hey kid, you got the part," So, so that was it, man. And then I trained with Stallone for 5 months. So at the end of that year of hard training, I was in such good shape. Like Sly said, we're in such good shape, you'll never be able to get out of shape after this. And he was kind of right, It was hard work. Twice a day, we did weights for an hour in the morning, and then we did boxing for 2 hours every afternoon, 6 days a week, 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And if I was 5 minutes late, he freaking went nuts. And I was driving, through LA traffic. Oh, fuck. I was going out with Grace.
Right.
And she would come home at 5 in the morning, with her entourage, because she would like to party. And I had to get up at like 5:15. So I'd be like, Grace, let me sleep, So it was a tough time.
And then while you were shooting, actually, from what I remembered, you received a phone call and then got a 2-week vacation during shooting. What happened there?
Oh yeah, we started shooting the final fight first. We shot that in Vancouver, because you couldn't go to Russia in those days because it was the Cold War, nuclear missiles and all of that. So we shot in Vancouver, and then after 2 weeks of shooting, I came back here, and it was in June. We started in May, and I got a phone call from the producer. "Hey, Dolph, you got 2 weeks off." I'm like, "Wow, that's great," because I was a 27-year-old kid. What's going on? Sly's in the hospital. "Oh, really?" "Yeah, he got some problem with his heart or whatever." And I think what happened was, in one of those fight scenes, I was told it was my fault, but I think it was like insurance scam or something. But anyway, he was directing, fighting. He wrote the movie, and he was fighting in the ring with me, and I was in great shape. I was 27 years old, and I thought it was tough. And he was 10 years older than me, and I was always thinking like, wow, that guy's in pretty damn good shape. But after 2 weeks, he had some problems. So I got 2 weeks off. It was great.
And then you wrap the film.
Yeah.
You're at the premiere. You walk into the premiere.
Yeah.
Very unknown. No one had really known who you were. And then an hour and a half later, you walk out of the theater and everybody knows who you are. What was that feeling like?
What was strange was, in those days, there's something called ADR, you redo your dialogue because some of the lines aren't clear or something. So I went in there and to see, and I expected to see some of the movie because I hadn't seen anything. I mean, there were no monitors in those days, none of that. So I went in there and there was like a shitty black and white copy, and I saw some scenes and I was, wow, this is it? This is what I worked my ass off for a year. Didn't look very impressive. And by the way, when I came out, this big limo pulled up and the window came down, and I looked in, and I heard, "Hey kid, come over here." And I'm like, and it was Burt Young, who plays, Paulie. And I looked in, and there was like a bar in the midst of his limo. It was like this big with 20 liquor bottles. And I remember and he saw me looking, he goes, "A lot of pressure, kid, in this business, a lot of pressure." So then I thought, okay, so I went home. I was a little depressed, and then I went into the premiere. I was with Grace, as a matter of fact. It was in Westwood. And there was the marching bands and the whole thing, and people were trying to get me out of the way to take pictures of her. Could you please step out of the way? You're in the way of my camera. And then I went in there and I sat down in the screen. The lights went down and the screen came up and those boxing gloves. And then I sat there like that was for an hour and a half. Lights came up, everybody was applauding, and everybody's looking at me because I guess I was the new guy, and they knew Sly already. And then I came out, like you said, and people were taking pictures of me instead of Grace almost. And it was weird. I mean, it was really strange for me. It took me years at least a year to get over that first initial kind of shock. And our relationship, by the way, didn't survive. We broke up because she had met this kind of, I guess, decent-looking Swedish guy in Australia, and he was a fighter, and he was a student, He was like a PhD student, and now, what happened? He was like a movie star now, and it didn't work really for us. So, but But it was an interesting period for sure.
All right, I do have a question
Yeah.
from the Australia campus. Let me
All right.
get this out here. What was your greatest challenge working as an actor, and what is still challenging? This came from Andy from the Gold Coast at the Australia campus.
The greatest challenge.
As an actor, and what still continues to challenge you?
Well, I think the challenge is that you want to make it fresh for yourself all the time. Like you have to find something fresh in the material for you to be excited about what you're going to do, about the role. I mean, I always try to find something, if it's a secret of mine or something I don't tell anybody, I don't tell the director, I don't tell anybody, some secret about the character and the way I approach it, something maybe in the character's backstory and something in the mannerisms or the way he talks or whatever. He come in like Marlon Brando, I don't know. But you find something funny, like, something that makes you want to come to the set every day. And that is challenging because it takes a little bit of work to figure that out. And usually I sit with a script and I sit with the lines and I try this and I try that and I try to think of it. And sometimes I'm watching another movie or I see some program about nature and I see a lion or something and wow, that's kind of an interesting idea. Maybe I'll use that, So that's how I look at it. That is the challenge, to make it fresh and fun for yourself.
Great. And I've just got one more question, then I'm going to open it up to our students here.
Sure.
Our acting students are taught filmmaking.
Yes.
Our filmmaking students are taught acting.
Great.
In your opinion, had you had that ability when you were young, do you think that would have improved your initial introduction to the entertainment industry? Do you feel that that's extremely valuable?
Yes, I wish in one way, okay, I can't go back and change history, and I got famous overnight for something I didn't exactly really know what I was getting into. And I wish that I would have had a broader education and been a little more aware of the business and the various opportunities and the various positions and perhaps, things that took me 20 years to accomplish or longer, I could have done maybe in a couple of years if I would have had that education and the understanding. Because once you become valuable in the industry, like once you're box office and, you like to say, put asses on seats, right? That's what they're talking about. If you could do that, then the audience, if you play a priest, you're going to play another 25 priests, in the next 25 movies, or that's what they want you to do. But maybe when you have a broader education, like some guys, after a couple of movies, some actors, they direct something or produce it, and they do their own thing, and that I wish I would have had that opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up to some questions now, guys.
My name is Aviv Rubenstein. I'm one of the film craft teachers here at NYFA. I got to read off the card. So upon viewing this movie as an adult, it seems like Ivan Drago is more of a reluctant warrior, forced into the program. You don't say, I will break you or I get to break you. You say, I must break you. How much of that is in the script? How much was that was in the directing? Or how much of that was your choice? Or am I just like nuts?
No. You're completely correct. Some of it was in Stallone's writing because, Drago is like kind of the Frankenstein myth created by the system, created by the bad guy is Dr. Frankenstein. Really, the monster is just a creation, right? So that's why it sort of resonates, I think, on that level. And I had a guy who helped me with the Russian accent and everything, who was a Russian director, and he was very smart, that guy. He gave me a lot of suggestions that I took, because I was quite inexperienced as an actor. I didn't really know about playing a second level and all of that, but he was a Stanislavski-trained director. So he had me play a lot of second level stuff because he meant that the character is so stoic that you have to play at a second level. What's going on? What are you thinking about? What is Drago worrying about? And some of that comes across quite well on screen, that he is feeling bad about what he's having to do, but he does it anyway, and he's kind of embarrassed about certain situations, but that wasn't in the script. That was something that I ended up playing. And I think in the editing, and Stallone, when he cut the picture, he saw some of that and he brought it out, So it's a combination of both, I think.
Does that mean that Brigitte Nielsen's character is your Dr. Frankenstein?
Well, yes. She's like the sexy Frankenstein, but the real Frankenstein is the guy who I lift up, you know.
Sure.
Right.
That guy who's the party boss or somebody, I suppose.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, how are you?
Wait, very well, thanks.
What is your best memory during the shooting process of Rocky?
I have a lot, of course, you know, because it was my first picture, and I was very young, and you remember things when you're young, when it's the first time it happens to you. But I do have one strong memory, and that's, you know, we did stuff up in Vancouver, and I was, you know, I was the favorite of the Russians, and then I lost the fight and all of that. But one of the strongest things was shooting in Vegas, when we did the thing with Apollo Creed, because, you know, it was actually a real MGM show, and all the dancers were there, and they had the ring come up, and, you know, and all of that. That was very interesting to me, because when I see the movie, the kind of confused and a bit shocked, the look of shock and confusion in Ivan Drago's eyes is the look of shock and confusion in my eyes. When I was there and when I saw that, and there was no acting required, you know, and it kind of makes me look at my own self at that age, and it's kind of nostalgic in kind of in a very nice way, you know, how I was such a kid, I was such a baby, you know, when I was there, and that's what I remember.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hello, Dolph.
Hey, how are you, man?
What was your most challenging role you have ever done as an actor?
Oh, that's a good one. I've done a few, you know, and I did did a little movie lately, about 2 years ago, called Don't Kill It. Just a little horror movie, low budget, and this guy Mike Mendes, who's like a weird kind of a far out director, and it's very bloody, you know. But when I read the script, it started out with this 5-page monologue, you know, and I was like, okay, how do I cut this down? But then immediately I realized, no, wait a second, this is a great monologue, you know, I got to do this, you know, and I had to work on it. And because the film was postponed twice, I really knew everything quite well, knew all my speeches and all of that. And the guy just won't stop talking, this character. He's just annoying, you know. And that was a very challenging role for me, because I'm not used to doing that. But it was also, I got some good reviews, and it was really a bit of a breakthrough for me as an actor. It was just recently, actually.
And is that tough to deal with typecasting when you're doing so many action films and you feel like branching out? How do you escape that, and can you find those roles?
Yeah, it is tough, you know. I mean, yeah, I think you go for those independent movies, you know, and that was just a luck of the draw that I found that role. And yeah, you get stuck. And I had about 10 years or so after that Rocky picture. I did a couple of movies where I really worked hard, and then I did a bunch of movies where I kind of didn't care so much because I was having fun, you know. I was a young man, you know, and I was getting famous, and, you know, I wasn't married, and I had a lot of, you know, kind of late nights and things like that. And, you know, I went astray, you know. I didn't really, I mean, I always worked hard, but I didn't really focus on, oh, let me do this, and let me get my career over here. But lately I've done a little more of that, and that role was quite good. And the thing is, it doesn't take much for people to see it, and then they realize, oh, he can do this, okay. Great, then we can give him that, and, you know, it happens quickly. The business responds quickly to anything that you do as an artist, which is cool, you know.
Thank you. It was an honor.
You're welcome.
Yo.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you for coming.
Sure, man.
Especially since I'm Swedish too, so it's a great honor.
Okay, I was going to guess that.
But. So my question is, as an upcoming actor from Sweden, I wonder what you think is best: start climbing up here or in Sweden? And what was your best tip be if I decided, or for any international, to start here?
Here, I think. Well, look, a lot of Swedish actors like the Skarsgårds and, you know, some of these other, you know, like Ingrid Bergman, and they started in Europe and came here when they had a skill developed, which I'm sure it's a great idea because they had their own directors they worked with and things like that. And I didn't do it that way. I came as an engineer, as you know, as I told you. But I think, you know, America is, I think it's even more important now than then. I mean, Los Angeles is, you know, this is it. I mean, more and more things are moving to the West Coast of the United States, you know, even from New York. Even when I lived in New York was, I think, a little more important. Now, okay, there's some talk shows and such in New York, but a lot of it is here. I mean, the music business is here now, and because of videos, I mean, because of internet. And so I think, yeah, I mean, I think you could try to go back to Sweden, but it's a very small market, too.
Yeah.
So if you're already here and you already get started, I would just try to make it here. I mean,
Okay.
I would try to do it here, and you can always go back from here or there and try some. You know, I haven't made one movie in Sweden yet. I'm trying to do something, but I've been in almost 60 movies now, you know. But it's about time, I guess. I have one or two little things.
Would you consider directing one there?
Yeah, I would actually. I have a period piece I like a lot. That's World War I thriller, kind of a romantic thriller set in the archipelago of Stockholm that I like a lot, that I'm trying to put together. So I'm hoping to do it next summer, because you know the summer is quite short in Sweden. What is it, about 4 or 5 days? No, but it's about 2 months. So I'm thinking of trying to shoot it, you know, next summer. Okay,
Thanks,
man.
Good evening, Mr. Lundgren. Thank you for being here. My question is, as an action movie actor and martial artist, you are known for your kicking. So how can you practice and keep your flexibility upon your 6'5" tall and 255 pounds body?
Well, 230. I can take it down a little bit. I lost some weight. Well, look, it's tough. It's hard to do martial arts when you're a big person because you have a lot of torque, you know, and I'm very supple anyway from, you know, just natural, but I've had some injuries lately that I have to do less training. And as a matter of fact, I'm having some injections, stem cell injections now. I've done, you know, 40 years of karate, so, and, you know, a lot of the crazy stuff in the movies, no warm up, 3 in the morning, okay, you're up, you know, stretch, and then, you know, do something crazy. Well, I don't do that anymore. But I think you have to be careful if you want to be in martial arts in the movies to take care of your body and not to get worn out. Jet Li, he has a lot of damage, worse than me. A lot of those guys, you know, they get a lot of injuries, you know, and I think the best thing is to do strength training and stretching and really be careful to, you know, do any crazy kicks and stuff unless you're warmed up, you know, because I did a lot of the crazy stuff and I'm paying for it now a little bit. So, you know, hopefully I'll get through these stem cell injections and everything, and I'll be back in Expendables 4, I hope. Next year.
Well, we can see the Expendables 4.
2018, right?
Yeah, 2018, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Hey, Dolph.
Hey, man.
You've been in a lot of action films, and they are sometimes dangerous to shoot. What was the most, if you can recall, the most dangerous, craziest, and scariest thing you experienced during shooting any of those films?
Oh, I've had a few things.
Sorry, and the second part of the question is, what's your favorite classic rock band?
The favorite?
Classic rock band.
Oh, Led Zeppelin.
All right.
Hey. They're the best, man. They're those guys. John Bonham. I used to play drums, you know. So, but yeah, I've had a few crazy experiences. I mean, there's been a few lately on Expendables 3. There was some, you know, near misses. I mean, there was a truck that we were supposed to all be on, and we were practicing early in the morning. Jason Statham's driving, and you know, there's some cameras set up. He's just doing like a little test run. And for some reason the brakes aren't working. So here's the water. We're in the port in Bulgaria, and he comes driving along the truck doesn't stop. It just keeps going. It takes out the cameras and he goes in the water and he disappears with the truck. You know, so we're all there going, what the hell, is Jason in there? And then someone's like, fuck, send in the divers. You know, it's like, but the guy was a diver. You know, so he pulled himself out. But you know. I've been in a similar situation where I was in Masters of the Universe, where this is back in the 80s, where things weren't quite as, organized as now. Late night shoot, and I had to jump out of a window through the candy glass, fake glass, with my sword, and then onto this. There's like a hovering disc in the movie, like a flying disc, but on the set there's just like a platform, right? So, I'm really tired, and I get up there and I decide I'm going to do it myself. And as I'm jumping, I look, and they've forgotten to put all the boxes down and all the mattresses. Like, this is concrete. And, time stands still. This is a short jump from here to there. But for a moment, I'm like, oh, shit, this is it. But I managed to somehow make it. And if that was now, a lot of people have gotten in serious trouble. But it was just, okay. He survived. That's good. That's what happened.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, hello, Dolph.
Hey.
Is there any super crazy big action scene that you dream of doing, or have you already done it?
That I like to do?
Yes.
Super big crazy action scene that I like to do. Well, I've done a lot of those in Expendables. I don't know if it gets any bigger.
Yeah.
Well, there's. I'm trying to think what I like to do. Well, you know what I like to do, which I haven't done really. I did a small World War II picture, but I'd like to do maybe World War I or World War II movie. Like, that would be great. Or maybe a Viking movie would be good.
Oh my God.
I don't know if there's enough blood, though, to go for everything. Okay, Viking would be good.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
When you're working on a film like Expendables,
Yeah.
with such huge personalities,
Yeah.
and these just existential people that you're always around, do you find you're competing with each other for not necessarily credit, but to sort of prove to everybody else that I'm better than you? Do you even in the smallest levels, especially with personalities that big?
Well, there is a little bit of that in the air when you show up. I mean, you can't help it. These guys are athletes, and a lot of them have their own franchises, their own movies. If you have a small, like you're in Bulgaria and you're getting ready for a scene, and you're on Expendables 2, I remember I came with a few friends, and then I'm in there, they're putting all the gear on you, and then, Chuck Norris comes in, and then, Van Damme shows up, and Jet Li's over in the corner, and then just like Jason Statham, like, wait a second, Stallone, Arnold, like, wait a second. So, yeah, it was kind of surreal. Bruce Willis was in that scene too. Yeah, it's a bit surreal, but I think what happens is the real athletes in there, like, I suppose I count myself as such to some extent, and like Randy Couture and Terry Crews, and I mean Van Damme too. I think they're not as competitive as maybe some of the other guys, because they just, to them the real competition is when it's real and you're getting your ass kicked for real. That's bad. That's painful. This is just a movie. But I think, there is a little bit of competition, but I think the bottom line is we're all in the same picture, and we want it to be a good movie. So you're going to help if anybody asks me to help them, or, if, I'm not jealous of Van Damme or Stallone or anything. I know that there's always somebody who's bigger than you, richer than you, a better actor than you, got a better looking girlfriend than you, and bigger biceps. There's, you just got to be happy for what you got, and that you're in the movie.
Hey, what's up, Dolph? Firstly, thank you on behalf of all of us for coming tonight. And the question is, if offered the chance, would you reprise your role as Ivan Drago in the Creed franchise?
Oh, funny you should say that.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I've said many times I don't want to play Ivan Drago again, but Ivan Drago, because I thought, the reason he's kind of such an icon in one way is because you can only see him up here,
Yeah.
But then, well, I can tell you now anyway, because it's probably gonna, be, public. But anyway, Stallone kind of contacted me about 6 months ago, and asked me, what do you think? What about playing Ivan Drago again? I got this idea, So, basically, he's thinking of Ivan Drago coaching his young Russian son, who's a fighter. Mm-hmm. Drago's been like, he's been sent off to Germany after he lost the fight. You know, he lived like, I don't know, working in a factory or drinking. I don't know what he was doing. You know? And then, you know, so now they come to America to take the son wants revenge for what happened to his dad. And so then I would play a trainer like Sly did in Creed. But Sly would train the African-American kid and I would train the Russian kid, you see.
Yeah.
Hey, Stallone, he's a genius. So I don't know if it'll happen, but if it does, you know, we heard it here first.
Thank you.
Hello, Dolph. Out of all the actors, who do you think is the best fighter?
Of all actors everywhere, ever, we're in the Expendables. Well, I don't know. I mean, I never met Bruce Lee. He was a good fighter, I think, for his weight category, even though he was a little guy. He was probably quite good. You know, Randy Couture is tough. He's a heavyweight, you know, MMA guy. And who else? Michael J. White's pretty tough. He's a big Kyokushin. He does the same karate style I'll do. You know, I suppose in my heyday, I guess I was pretty tough too. As a fighter, because I'm, you know, big and I was used to, you know, contact fighting and all that. So, yeah, I think that would be it. Stallone was actually impressive as a boxer, because I never expected, you know, somebody who's only an actor to be that good, but he's quite good too. Van Damme was tough as well. You know, especially when we first did Universal Soldier. He was in very good shape back then, you know. Seagal, probably, I don't know about now, but I know he was a real fighter. I mean, he's kind of a dangerous guy, you know.
Navy SEAL as well.
Yeah, Navy SEAL. He did Aikido in Japan, so he would also be a candidate for that title.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
I do have one quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
If you could go back 30 years ago and meet a very young Dolph,
oh boy,
with knowing what you know today,
poor kid,
what advice would you give yourself?
Whoa. I mean, I would say get some therapy. Get some therapy, start meditating, make sure you have the best advisors, make sure that you have a lot of inner calm and that you're very secure in yourself, so you can have some resistance to that crazy world out there. And I had some of that from martial arts, but you know, I got pulled along in many crazy directions because I didn't really have people to support me, to speak to, you know, I only have one or two people. But I never had that really somebody to bounce things off like that. You know, I started therapy, by the way, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I always thought, well, acting is it's like therapy. I don't need any, that's bullshit, you know, I don't need that. But I realized therapy is great. You know, Marlon Brando started it, you know, back in the 50s, you know, because not just as an actor do you have a lot of, usually some emotional complexity and things, but then in the business there's a lot of pressure. And a lot of times you beat yourself up over things that you really shouldn't beat yourself up over, that are completely natural. And by talking to somebody, you know, who knows you and who can give you good advice, you can bounce things off them. It's really valuable. It's been great for me, you know. So I think that, and then meditation, I started doing that as well about 4 or 5 years ago. It's also been great to keep some time during the day just for yourself, when it's all about you. And it's not about doing things, it's about being. It's the domain of being. Don't just breathe and just you know, feel what's going on, you know. And in our crazy world, you know, that's a really valuable moment, I think, for anybody.
Living in that moment, staying in that moment.
Yeah, staying in the moment.
Yeah.
And that comes back in your acting as well, where, you know, when you're facing the camera, you don't necessarily have to do so much all the time, because you have the courage to just be and just breathe and just look the other guy in the eye or the other person in the eye and just be yourself, you know. That's quite difficult.
What do you find more difficult, being an actor or working as a director?
Well, directing is more fun to me in one way, kind of more challenging. Acting is playing and being childlike, whereas directing, you're a little more responsible. Now, I've done the acting stuff a lot, so for me, directing is more of a challenge in one way, especially now when I have a lot of experience. And I think a lot of what I've realized as a director, a lot of my experience can be to calm people down, and like the producers, like the actors, and hey guys, don't worry, it'll be fine, don't worry, that looks great, just, don't worry about it, just have fun, like that kind of a calming influence instead of running around like crazy, on the set thinking, that the frantic energy I've had a lot to deal with. I don't like that in directors. I like calm directors.
They're able to keep focus on the project.
Yeah, keep focus on the project. And once you have a good script and you cast the right people and you light it and there's the lens, and you don't need to do that much. You don't need to try to push people around too much. It's there already in the story, and they just need to speak the line, They don't have to put so much on it because the story is telling everything,
Yeah.
I think that's, to have fun with it. It's actually it's a damn kind of, it's an entertaining kind of a job, and you're supposed to have fun being an actor and being a director, and you're supposed to be laughing and goofing off a little bit too. It doesn't have to be dead serious, Stallone is a lot of fun. And a lot of the Expendables guys like Arnold, he makes jokes all the time with a cigar, and it's all, everything is, and that's what people love the guy, So, Harrison, you will crash the chopper, don't let him fly it, So, there you go.
Well, on behalf of myself
Yeah.
and the New York Film Academy, we'd like to thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Dolph Lundgren.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.